Hello everybody, Wannabe Reviewer here, and welcome back to the Wannabe Podcast, episode 16. Speaking of which, 16 already? I mean, if this podcast was a kid, it would be old enough to drive, old enough to have a job, old enough to date, I guess. I mean, boy, they grow up so fast. But regardless, though, before we begin, I just wanted to share with you guys really quick that, podcast is already up to episode 16. And I don't know if you guys remember, but at the beginning of this year, I said that I had a lot of plans for the channel, a lot of stuff that I wanted to do. And one of those is that I wanted to expand the podcast, so to speak. Like, I don't want it to just be on just YouTube. Like, I want to put it on other platforms. And so, for like the last week or so, I've been kind of, investigating and messing around with putting it like on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, stuff like that. I'm still doing research into how to expand it more. And so, I mean, that's still in the process, but I just wanted to share that with you guys because, like I said, I'm just really excited to do more stuff and like really get the podcast out there. And hopefully people who listen to the podcast will come to the channel, that sort of thing. And so I've started the process of that. And so I just want to share that with you guys because, like I said, I'm just really excited, That aside, though, I guess I should get started on my week. And I know that usually I start my week off by talking about what manga I've read. But a funny thing happened this week, all right? So last week, didn't really read any manga. Didn't really have the mood to start a new manga yet. So I just read some chapters of some manga that I've read before. And this week, though, I was totally in the mood for a new manga. I knew what manga I wanted to read. It's this manga series that I've heard about for a while. I've heard that it's supposed to be like really funny, really good. It's pretty popular and stuff too. And just as I was about to start reading it, I get this, not notification, but I just come across this thing that tells me that it's actually getting adapted into an anime this season. Like, I actually watched the first episode already, which I'll talk about later. But so that was really awkward because I was just about to start reading it. But I mean, if I read it, then I feel like I'll get spoiled on the anime, because I'll probably get ahead. And so I just decided I'd rather watch the anime first. And then, if maybe wherever it leaves off, I'll read the manga. But so because of that, no manga this week, which was, like I said, that was just totally like a weird coincidence that the manga I was about to start reading ended up getting an anime adaptation. But I mean, it is what it is. And like I said, I'll talk about it, in a bit. So transitioning into anime that I watched this week, I watched quite a few, stuff that I talked about last week and a couple of new ones. So starting with one that I watched last week, I watched the second episode of Mob Psycho 100 Season 2. And last week, if you guys heard, I said that I thought it was a good first episode. I thought that the way we kind of dip into the world of Mob Psycho 100 again was really fun. It was kind of like a heartwarming episode. It was really funny, that sort of thing. And likewise, this episode wasn't really big on plot. Like, not a lot happens that we can say, like, oh, I know where the story's going this season. But it was still, like, a really fun episode. I really enjoyed it. Basically, it's about Mob and Reagan, and they go to this, like, neighboring, like, little town because Reagan's trying to drum up some business for his, like, psychic services or whatever you want to call it. And so they go to this neighboring town, and they start looking into these, like, rumors. Because you know how, like, you always hear about, like, there's urban legends for, like, different towns about different stuff. Like, in this town, there's an urban legend about, like, some demon in a red raincoat and some lady ghost that drags you into the lake and, stuff like that. And so they go to investigate. And that's basically what the episode's about. They meet, like, this rival psychic. They split up. They start investigating the urban legends, that sort of thing. And, at one point, they do fight an actual, like, really strong spirit. And that's basically it. Not a lot happens, but it was still a fun episode. It was really funny. Seeing, like, Mob fight the ghost was pretty cool. And the psychic guy who shows up in that episode, I mean, he was pretty fun. I kind of hope he shows up, throughout the season. I think that'd be fun. And that's basically it. Like I said, not a lot to talk about, but it was still just a really enjoyable episode. And I continue to be excited for more Mob because I just really like the universe and the characters, so I also watched the Promised Neverland episode 2, and that was a really good follow-up to the first episode. For anyone who missed the last week, I said that the first episode of the Promised Neverland Basically, it's about these kids. There's Emma, which is the girl with the spiky, like, orange hair. There's Norman, who's the kid with the white hair. And there's Ray, who's kind of like, you know, quiet, emo-ish, has black hair. And they're like the oldest and kind of like the leaders of all the kids at their orphanage because they're like the smartest, coolest, most athletic, that sort of thing. And the first episode, we get introduced to the kids and how they live on this orphanage. There's 37 kids total. They consider each other family, that sort of thing. And one night, Emma and Norman break the rules and they go like there's like this forest and like this huge gate surrounding their orphanage, and they're told to never wander like too far from the orphanage. And so they break the rules by like crossing the gate. And when they cross the gate, they stumble upon this like horrible secret that totally turns everything they think they know about the world upside down. And they're like super freaked out and they start, you know, saying to themselves, like, we need to escape, like our lives are in jeopardy, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, that was like really exciting, really interesting. And this second episode was a pretty good follow-up. Basically, it's about Emma and Norman having to pretend that they don't know what's happening because, you know, if they let on that they know what's happening, I mean, they'll probably get killed. So it's them pretending they're still happy and they don't know what's happening. And they're trying to trick the mom character into thinking that, you know, they didn't cross the gate or whatever, even though she's suspicious. And, you know, the episode shows them like investigating their surroundings more, trying to come up with a plan of how they're going to escape and take all the kids with them, that sort of thing. Even though it was only Emma and Norman who crossed the gate and saw like the horrible secret or whatever, they let Ray in on the secret because they know that he won't like freak out and they know that he's like really smart and he'll help them. And so basically, you know, Ray's part of the little group now and they're all trying to come up with a plan of how they're going to escape. So that was really cool. And not only that, but not only is that premise itself like really interesting, but right at the end of the second episode, they introduce like this curveball that's going to make it like so much more hard for the kids to escape. You know, like not only were they barely trying to get up the courage to escape and come up with a plan, but then there's this curveball that gets introduced that's going to make things even harder. And so that makes it really interesting. And so, yeah, I mean, The Promised Neverland, definitely recommend. Really good so far. And I have high hopes for, you know, this series this season. I think it looks really interesting and it looks really good. And even though I haven't looked too far into the manga because I don't want to get spoiled, from what I've seen, it's pretty... like, people really like the manga. Like, they have good things to say about it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just looking forward to what more the show has to offer. Like, every time I end an episode, I'm just excited for more. So, that should tell you how good it is. Finally, out of the shows that I mentioned last week that I watched more of, I watched the third episode of Boogiepop and Others. And, yeah, that show just continues to be, like, really weird, but really interesting. It would be kind of spoiling it, I guess, so I don't want to talk about it too much. But basically, in this third episode, we see more characters kind of catching on to the man-eater and the other kids' plan. Like, they think stuff is kind of suspicious. And I remember the man-eater's name. It's Manticore. Manticore is supposed to be... crap, now I'm forgetting. I think it was Greek. Now I'm forgetting what language. But the point is, Manticore and some other language means man-eater. So Manticore and this kid, people are kind of starting to, you know, be suspicious of their plans a little bit because people are going missing. And so it's about, you know, people kind of investigating more into what's happening. And yeah, really interesting, really weird. The thing I will say, though, is it's kind of strange because I think I've read it's supposed to be 18 episodes. But like in these first 3 episodes, a lot happened. So it's kind of like, what's supposed to happen next? Like, I'm kind of confused. But I mean, then again, I'm not too familiar with the works. If it is based on like a bunch of novels, maybe each few episodes will be like a different arc or something. Maybe that's the way it's going to work. But yeah, I mean, this first 3 episodes, a lot happens, which kind of left me going like, what's next? But I don't know. But yeah, like I said last week, I'll say it again this week. Super interesting series, has like a really good, like creepy vibe, but it is kind of, I don't know, it is like really weird. I know it won't be for everybody, but if it sounds interesting to you and you like horror-ish sci-fi anime and you don't mind stuff that like kind of leaves you, you know, puzzled and scratching your head, then I would say check it out. If not, then, you know, I guess just forget about it. Moving on to new series that I didn't talk about this week, either because it just started or I barely discovered the show. The first show I want to talk about is My Roommate is a Cat. I actually watched the first 2 episodes of that. And yeah, basically My Roommate is a Cat is about this kid that when we start the series, it shows that he's at a funeral because his mom and dad died in a bus crash, I believe. Like some sort of a car accident, right? So this kid loses both his parents, and then we get like a 3-year time skip. And apparently ever since he lost his parents, he's been living alone, and he's become like a loner that never leaves the house. And he just doesn't really talk to people. And because he's an author, this works for him. I mean, he never has to leave the house. He just writes his books. The only time he ever goes out in public is to talk to his publisher and then, back to his cave, right? And so when we start the series, we see that the main character is like really antisocial. He's really used to being by himself. Like he does have this friend that I guess he's known since like childhood because the friend was at the funeral. That, his friend comes over every so often to like hang out and bring food, I guess, that his mom makes so that the protagonist, has food. But besides that, our protagonist is just like a really lonely guy who's just like a workaholic, always working on his books. And all of that changes when one day he goes to his parents' grave and he's leaving like some incense and I think like an offering of food or something. And as he's opening up like the package that has like some sort of fish, right? It's like some sort of like little fish meal. This cat shows up. And yeah, the cat just starts eating the food, and he ends up like taking the cat home because he's been having kind of a bit of a, writer's block. And so the cat starts giving him ideas for stuff to write about. So he takes the cat home. And yeah, so it's like a really heartwarming series because we see how this guy who's really lonely starts opening up to this creature and he's not alone and stuff. And what also makes it really nice is that like half the episode is told from the perspective of the guy. And the other half of this episodes are told from the perspective of the cat. So basically in the first episode, we see how the guy takes the cat home, all the good stuff. And then we get the perspective of the cat, which is actually, it's a little girl cat. And we see how she's, kind of wary of the guy. She doesn't really know if she should trust him or not. And, he feeds her. And so she feels like she's indebted to like pay him back. So she's always trying to like give her food to him. Like she's always leaving like her food like outside his door. And from like his perspective, he's confused of why the cat's doing this. But then we get the perspective where she's saying like, oh, since like he fed me, I need to like repay him or whatever. And yeah, it's just like really cute because I don't know, just seeing how there's this misunderstanding between them, but how they both really are warming up to each other is just really nice, Like in the second episode, he's trying to figure out how to name the cat and he doesn't know what to name the cat. And finally, when he ends up saying the name Haru, the cat responds. And so he's like, oh, this must be a sign, like that'll be her name, blah, blah, blah. And then when we get this perspective of the cat, we see that the reason she responds to the name Haru is because when she was a stray, there used to be this little girl named Haru that would feed her. And whenever, the little girl would feed the cat, the mom would always come and it would be like, oh, Haru, you're feeding the cat, blah, blah, blah. And since the cat always heard the name Haru, it associates food with the name Haru. And so basically when the protagonist, says Haru, the cat thinks the Haru means food. So that's where the cat responded. But still, even though there's these misunderstandings between the main character and the cat, it's still really cute to see each, character's perspective and how they're warming up to each other. So I don't know. It's like a really unique premise. I never thought there would be a show about a guy and a cat and we'd get the perspective of the cat and what it thinks of its owner, but it's a really nice series. And like I said, I've watched 2 episodes of it so far and I really enjoy it. It's kind of a surprise hit. I just somehow stumbled upon it because it just seemed interesting and I'm really liking it. So, I definitely recommend it. Finally, the last anime that I watched this week is one called Kaguya-sama Love is War. And if you guys remember at the beginning, I said that there was a manga that I wanted to read, and then I didn't get to it because I heard there was an anime adaptation. And so this is the series I'm talking about. So basically, Kaguya-sama is this manga that's been around for a few years. I've always heard it's really funny, that's really good, it's pretty popular. And so I first watched the first episode of Kaguya-sama Love is War, and I liked it. It's kind of weird, but it's enjoyable. Basically, it's about these 2 kids. One is the student body president, and the other is the vice president. And so the president, he's like really smart. People consider him a genius. He comes from a pretty normal family, but because of all his like hard work and how he always studies and how he's like the president and stuff, everybody in the school looks up to him. Everybody thinks he's great. And the girl, on the other hand, I mean, she's also like really smart and like really athletic and good at everything. But her thing is that she comes from like a wealthy family. And so basically everybody in the school looks up to these two because they're so, awesome. They're so good at everything. They're good looking. And everyone is always, speculating like, oh man, like they must be dating because, like they're so perfect for each other. And the thing is that even though they do have a thing for each other, they each refuse to be the one to confess their love, which is weird because basically they see confessing their love, like they see it as a sign of weakness, basically. And so basically what it seems like the series is about, it's about these like two really smart individuals who don't want to show weakness by confessing their crush on the other. And so they're just playing these mind games to try to trick the other into confessing their feelings first. Which is like a really weird premise, but like in practice, it's pretty funny. So like in one of the episodes, not one of the episodes. In the first episode, there's like 3 different segments. And like in one segment, for instance, the girl pretends that she got a love letter. Actually, I don't know if she pretends or I don't know if she actually does. But the point is she gets a love letter and she purposely takes it to the student council room and she's purposely talking to the secretary and saying, like, oh, I got this love letter and I think I'm going to go on a date with this guy, blah, blah, blah. Because she wants to make the president jealous. The president, on the other hand, he doesn't want to admit he's jealous. So he's trying to keep his cool. And so as the girl, is talking about how like, oh, I'm going to go on a date with him, this and that, the president's trying to think of ways to like say that he doesn't want her to go on the date, but without making it seem like he's interested. So when she says, for instance, like, oh, I'm gonna go on a date with this guy because even if I don't know him, the fact that he had the courage to write this letter, this and that, the president's like, well, I can't allow you to go on a date because like that would be wrong for like our vice president to go on a date with someone she doesn't know. Like that would be, like it would set a bad example. And so, that's his move. And then her move is to say, well, even if I don't know him, this and that, I think it's love at first sight. His like writing was so good. And if I get expelled, or get in trouble, like it's worth it. So that's her move, like her counter move. And so they're just like doing all these like moves and counter moves against each other to try to like, not admit they like each other. Like for her, she wants him to just say, I don't want you to go on this date because I like you. And for him, he wants to say, don't go on the date, go on a date with me. But he doesn't want to sound like, he doesn't want to show any weakness. And so I don't know, it's just like a weird premise, but it's actually really funny seeing them use these moves and counter moves. And even though it is kind of dumb, like why don't they just both just say their feelings? I mean, I get it. The premise is that neither of them want to like say it because they're too stubborn. But it's just really funny, because they're just like trying to outmaneuver each other. But yeah, I mean, definitely a unique premise and weird, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good first episode. I'm looking forward to the second episode. Like I said, I've heard some good things about the manga, so I mean, for now, I would recommend it. It seems like a fun series, so moving on to other stuff I did this week. No movies this week. Didn't really have the time for that. Been busy with work and anime and video channel stuff behind the scenes. Likewise, no new TV shows. There's a TV show that I'm hoping to start this week so I can do a review of it soon, but I'll talk more about that, next week if I get to it. When it comes to games though, I did play a new game. It's this little game called Sega Age's OutRun. And basically it's this little retro game that just hit the Switch. And apparently from what I was doing some research, apparently back in like 1986, this used to be like an arcade game that Sega released. And it's this little like arcade driving game where you don't race against others, but you race against this timer to reach these different checkpoints. And so basically what makes the game interesting is that you're in a car and you're racing down the highway. And you have, a limited timer. And as you get through certain spots, there will be forks in the road. And so it's up to you which route you'll take. And as you take all these, different routes, there's, 5 different endings you can get to, A, B, C, D, and E. But yeah, it's a pretty fun game. It's only, I want to say, $7 on the Switch. I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, I mean, from what I've read, people say that this is an arcade classic, and it's just a game that refuses to go away because people really enjoyed it. And after having played it, I'll admit I really enjoyed it. It has a lot of different options, a lot of different things you can do in the game. Just having the option to drive this way or that way and access different areas is really cool. And so, I recommend it. And honestly, I think I might even try to see if I can do a review of the game because I just think it's like that good, Like for being an arcade game, all of arcade games don't really hold up on consoles because they're either too easy or they're too hard. Or like, I don't know, you just have to like slog through them. But this one has like a good balance because of all the options. And so I think I might even do a review about it. So, keep an eye out for that in case I do a review. If I don't, then once again, Sega Ages OutRun. Fun little game. I recommend it. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about really quick is Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. Unfortunately, I have not played the game yet because usually the way it works is that games come out on Friday. Usually by the time I record this, games haven't arrived in the mail yet. That sucks. But I still want to talk about it because from what I've heard, the game does have some issues. So I just want to throw that out there. I watched a few reviews, including a really good one from Mr. Panda. I've talked about him on the channel before. He did an excellent review of the game. And yeah, apparently the game does have some issues. I've heard some people say it's kind of short. Other people have said that some of the mechanics are kind of, iffy. They didn't really enjoy all the mechanics. Other people said that, there's not enough cutscenes, that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know. The game doesn't sound perfect. So I just want to throw that out there in case anyone's wondering, I guess. But, I'm still excited to play it. I still want to get my own opinion on it. Hopefully I can play it by, next week and talk about it. But yeah, I just want to throw that out there really quick that, if you've been wondering if you should play it or not, I guess just be cautious, if you're a big fan of the series, from what I've heard, apparently you probably will enjoy the game, because it has a lot of trademark Suda51 stuff. But if you're not really a fan of the game, then I don't know, take it with a grain of salt. Might not be the game for you at the moment, maybe wait for there to be a price drop or something. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that real quick. So, And with that being said, that brings me to the end of my week, so let's transition over to the news. Speaking of which, the first news story that I want to talk about, while we're talking about games that I want to play, but I have to wait for, the first news story that I want to talk about really quick is that the Kingdom Hearts VR experience has been delayed until January 23rd. Now, I don't know how many of you that are listening to this are big Kingdom Hearts fans or even have a VR or had even heard about this, but yeah, for some background, basically there's this VR experience that was supposed to come out the 25th of December, then it got pushed back till the 18th, and now it's getting pushed back to the 23rd, and it's supposed to be, this little VR experience where I'm not sure if it's just the first game or if it's, different things in the series, but it's just supposed to be like a little VR thing where you, recreate stuff from the Kingdom Hearts universe. And so yeah, even though it's just a Japanese exclusive at the moment, I'm pretty excited for that because, number one, it's not that hard to, bypass that. Basically, all you do is you make like a Japanese account, you download it, play it, whatever. And number two, love Kingdom Hearts. So the more Kingdom Hearts I can get, that always makes me excited. And number three, I have a PlayStation VR and I feel like it doesn't get enough love. So, anything that they can put out there, if it's good, that's a big plus. And so yeah, like I said, not too much to the story. However, I just wanted to share it because, if you guys have heard about it, unfortunately it's getting delayed, but hopefully that's a good sign of them fixing, some last minute bugs or something, polishing it up. And if you hadn't heard about it, but you, like I said, have a PlayStation VR, then I also wanted to share it because that could be something fun to play, and try out. Especially if you're a fan of Kingdom Hearts, that could be, worth a try. So I don't know. Like I said, quick news story, not too much to it, but I just want to share that the game's been delayed and, hopefully people will try it out. So moving on, the next story that I wanted to share is that Mortal Kombat 11 had a reveal event in which they showed trailers, characters, a new beta, and their collector's edition. So funny enough, I actually saw a stream of the event, and I don't know, even though I'm excited for Mortal Kombat 11, and even though they did announce some pretty cool stuff, the event itself was really weird because it was like an hour long, and like 25% of that was them talking about like a new voice actors for the game, which I'll share in a moment. And then they didn't really reveal much, you know? It just felt like kind of a waste of time. I don't know. Like the event itself was really crappy, but luckily for you guys, you know, if you're interested, you can read the article where it talks about like all the new stuff. And, you know, so to dive in, they talked about the characters, Baraka's coming back, Raiden's coming back, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, you know, of course they're in the game. Let's see here. They show a new character named Garrus, who's this servant to who it looks like might be the main antagonist of the game. And he's pretty cool. Basically, it looks like he can manipulate time and like Earth because he has a lot of like rock, you know, powers and stuff, a lot of rock moves. And so he's pretty cool. Scarlet, I don't know if you guys have played Mortal Kombat 9. There was this, I don't know, I think she was DLC. I want to say she was DLC, but there was this character named Scarlet. She's like this red ninja that controls blood. She's back in the game, and she has like a new design, so that's pretty cool. And let's see here. Shao Kahn, apparently he's a pre-order bonus, which that was annoying during the event. They showed that pre-order bonus screen like 6 different times. I mean, that was annoying, but I mean, if you want to pre-order, Shao Kahn's pretty cool. And yeah, and then finally, the last confirmed character is Sonya Blade. And yeah, the big news that they wouldn't shut up about during the event is that she's voiced by Ronda Rousey, which, I mean, you know, cool. I mean, I guess Ronda Rousey, you know, people like her. I mean, personally, I'm indifferent about her. I don't hate her, but I don't like her, but I don't hate her, you know, I just think she's fine, whatever. But yeah, that's part of what made the event so awkward. You know, like not only did they show that pre-order bonus screen like 6 different times, but like a fourth, you know, honestly, like a, you know, a quarter of the whole event was just them talking about Ronda Rousey and interviewing her about her part in the game and making it like this big push. And I mean, honestly, like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, it's not like, oh man, Ronda Rousey's voicing a character, I'm so excited now. I mean, it doesn't really matter, I think, but you know, whatever. Besides that, they also talked about a beta. You know, basically if you pre-order the game, you can play the beta on March 28th. So that's cool, I guess. And let's see, they also talked about the collector's edition. Basically, you get like the game, you get some like downloadable stuff, you get a steel case, you get like a special coin, you get like this weird huge like scorpion mask head thing, which looks kind of awkward, but I mean, I guess that's kind of cool. And yeah, I mean, what else is there really to talk about? They show off the gameplay a bit. Definitely the game looks really good. The graphics are better than ever. The animation looks really nice. The story seems pretty interesting. Basically, it seems to take place after Mortal Kombat 10. Who I think is going to be like the main antagonist, her name is Chronica. And she's like this lady who apparently, like, I don't know if she like watches over time or she can manipulate time. I don't know what her deal is. But basically, she's unhappy because Raiden keeps messing with like the balance of things. And so it looks like the game's going to be about like a lot of like time travel stuff where I guess, you know, old versions of characters are going to fight like the new versions of characters, that sort of thing. And I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm excited for the game. There's definitely some cool stuff in it, but it's just kind of a shame that all of it was revealed through this like awkward event that wasn't handled the best. But yeah, I mean, there you have it. If you love Mortal Kombat, new game is coming out April 23rd. It's coming to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. So look forward to it, I guess. Speaking of look forward to it, Resident Evil 2, you know, like the remake, there was a demo that came out not too long ago. It lets you play the game for, I think it was you can play it for like half an hour, but you can only play it once, which is kind of weird. But yeah, basically, you know, they released the demo. People have said it's really good. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but from what I've seen too, I've seen a little bit of gameplay of people playing it. The graphics look great. It looks like the whole game has just been remade from the ground up, and it looks like it's really well made. Like, I'm really excited for it. I know that once I finish Kingdom Hearts 3, this will probably be like the next like big title I dive into. But yeah, basically what this new story talks about is that Resident Evil 2 demo reveals the new look of 2 classic characters. So in Resident Evil 2, there are these characters named Hunk and Tofu. And, you know, in this little trailer thing, you get to see their like design, and you get to see a little bit about them. And so yeah, basically Hunk is this guy who wears a gas mask, and he's like this mercenary that, you know, shows up in Resident Evil 2. He has like his own like story mode, and he's just going around trying to like kind of if I remember correctly, I think it's to like destroy evidence of like what happened in Raccoon City. And meanwhile, Tofu is this weird he's not even meant to be a character. He used to be like to test the hitbox or whatever, and he's like this weird block person with like an anime sounding voice, and he's supposed to be like just like this like secret thing, right? And yeah, apparently they're making him into like a full-blown character, and so it's kind of cool because basically not only do you get to see them in action, but this seems to hint that they're probably going to bring back some of the modes that were on the original RE2. Because like Hunk is from this mode called the Fourth Survivor, where you play as him, and Tofu is from I believe they're calling it like the Tofu Survivor or something like that. I forget. But the point is that, you know, not only is it cool to see them come back, but apparently, you know, there might be more than just the core story. So yeah, I mean, Resident Evil 2 remake definitely gearing up to be full of a lot of content, be really cool. So yeah, just thought I'd share that real quick. Moving on, this next story is one of those stories where I'm not sure who asked for this. It sounds stupid as hell, but apparently Kevin Hart is set to star in a Monopoly movie that's being directed by the guy who directed Ride Along. So yeah, not really sure what to say, but yeah, once again, they're just adapting a board game into a movie. I mean, I don't think that's ever worked out except for maybe like Clue back in the day. But yeah, for whatever reason, Kevin Hart is going to star in a Monopoly movie. And I don't think they really have a premise yet, you know? It sounds like they're still kind of working on the script and stuff. I'm trying to look at it. But yeah, I mean, apparently he's going to star in it. And don't really know what else to say. This just sounds really stupid and really not well thought out. I don't really know what you could even do based on Monopoly. Sounds stupid, but there you go. If you're excited to see more Kevin Hart, he's going to be in a Monopoly movie, so yeah. Speaking of stuff that people didn't ask for, this is something that people did ask for, but it remains to be seen if it will go the way they want to. Basically what I'm talking about is that there was a new trailer for Jason, I think his name's Reitman? I think you pronounce it Reitman. But yeah, this guy named Jason Reitman, he released a new trailer for what seems to be Ghostbusters 3. And yeah, I mean, if you watch the trailer, not too much happens. Basically, it shows like, you know, we're like, the camera's like zooming into like a farmhouse, and it's like really like windy and dark. And then as you get closer, you hear one of their like backpack things. What do you call them? I always forget. Like the proton pack or something like that. Like you hear it like making noise, like it's starting up. And then from there, you're inside of the barn, and then it shows this like sheet blows away. And under it is the original vehicle that the Ghostbusters would drive. I mean, sorry if I'm not remembering all the, you know, details, like what it's called and stuff. But yeah, they show like the original Ghostbusters car, and that's basically it. I mean, it's just a teaser. But people are, from what I've seen, people are excited. Because I guess they're excited that it's going to be like a sequel to Ghostbusters, you know, the original series, and not like the reboot. So, I mean, it remains to be seen if it'll be good. I think I read somewhere Bill Murray might be attached to the project. I'm actually not too sure. But on the other hand, the other two guys who starred in it, what's his name? Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson, they seem to be reacting to it, you know, pretty positively. It doesn't seem like they're hating on it. So yeah, I mean, Ghostbusters 3, people have been asking for it. After that reboot that nobody liked, we're getting a sequel to the original series. And will it be good? Will it be bad? Remains to be seen, but there you go. I mean, we're getting a Ghostbusters 3. If it ends up being terrible, at least all the people who didn't want it can look in the faces of the other people and say, I told you so. And I mean, if it ends up being good, then good. I mean, at least it's what people have been wanting, I guess. The last movie story that I wanted to talk about is that it seems like it's become my curse, but there is another Disney live-action adaptation in the works, and this time Disney is thinking of adapting Hunchback as a live-action musical. And not only that, but apparently Josh Gad. There's rumors that he might star in it. So yeah, don't really know what to say. I mean, I feel like every week, basically, I'm talking about some sort of new Disney live-action remake, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like they're going on this a little too hard. You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The live-action remakes we've had so far haven't even been that great. Aladdin doesn't look like it's going to be that great. What else is there in the works? Aladdin doesn't look like it's going to be that great. Dumbo looks kind of boring, obviously. And I don't know. I mean, they just keep pushing these out and they don't really wait for the reception. So don't really know what else to say. I mean, check out the story for yourself, I guess. I just feel like I'm so tired of having to cover these. Just stop with the live action remakes, but I know they're not going to. So there you go. Another one is in the works, guys. Get excited, I guess. Moving over to TV news, apparently there's this show called Space Force that's this comedy series coming to Netflix, and Steve Carell's going to star in it. So basically, Steve Carell and the creator of The Office, they're, going to make the show, and it's supposed to be, I guess, like a parody of Trump and how he announced Space Force and how it was going to be like the 6th like major division of like the armed forces. And yeah, supposedly it's going to be like a workplace comedy. It's going to star Steve Carell. I'm looking to see if there's any more info. I don't think there's that much more info at the moment, like who else is going to star in it or anything. But there you go. I mean, an Office, like, I don't know. It's supposed to be like in the style of The Office, I guess. And it's going to be about being in space. I don't know. Like, it sounds weird. I don't know if it's going to be any good. I mean, part of what made like The Office good, for instance, is that you had Steve Carell and like the big cast of people, Maybe this won't do as good, but I don't know. From what I've seen, people seem to have confidence in it because they love Steve Carell, and the guy who made The Office, they have confidence in him. But, like other stuff, whether it will be good or not remains to be seen. Let's see here. And yeah, I just read through the article. It doesn't seem like there's any news of who else will come out in it, but there you go. There's going to be a show about Space Force. So I don't know. Take that, Trump, I guess. They're making fun of his idea. So there you go. Finally, the last story that I have on the docket is an anime story, and basically it is about how a supernatural adventure called Spectre is getting a anime adaptation. So it's I'm trying to see if I can see. I believe it's still a fairly new manga series. But yeah, basically there's this manga series called Spectre, and in this manga, which I thought was really interesting, which is why I'm talking about it, it stars this 17-year-old girl that when she was a kid, she was kidnapped by some yokai and taken to the spirit world. While she was over there, the yokai asked her to be almost like this, what would you call it? Like a mediator between like ghosts and people. And she agrees. And so in exchange for whatever reason, they take away one of her legs and one of her eyes. I mean, once again, not really sure why they do that. I guess maybe that's part of the deal. Maybe it'll, if I guess you have to watch, like, kind of figure out why they do that. But yeah, basically they take one of her legs, one of her eyes, and since then, I guess maybe they got replaced with like supernatural stuff. I don't know. But since then, she's had the power to communicate with ghosts, both good and bad. And then apparently she has a crush on this guy, and apparently she discovers that he can also communicate with spirits and stuff, and they've kind of been ruining his life and like messing with him. And so apparently the series is about how they both team up to deal with all these like mysteries and all these like spirits in their town and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, it sounds interesting. It kind of reminds me of like early Bleach, because early Bleach, you had Ichigo, who despite being like a human could communicate with the dead, and Rukia, who like knew more about the spirit world, fighting spirits and stuff. And that was really interesting. And I always really loved early Bleach because I felt like it was really intimate, the way that you had Ichigo and Rukia like teaming up. It seemed like they might have had like a little romance thing going. And basically, yeah, that's what this show's supposed to be. It's about two individuals dealing with spirits. And like it says here, she has a crush on him. So I don't know if there's gonna be like a romance aspect to it. But I don't know. From what I read, I thought it sounded really interesting. And when I looked up like the manga, I didn't look up too much, not spoil it. But when I looked up like scores, it seemed like it has some pretty high scores. And yeah, people seem to like the series. So we'll have to wait and see if it's good. But I'm excited. It sounds interesting. And I definitely plan to check it out. So once again, that's called In/Spectre. And I'm trying to see if there is a release date. But so far, there is not. It looks like they're barely like starting work on it. But, keep an eye out for it, I guess. Alrighty, and with that being said, that brings us to the end of another news week. As always, hopefully there was some sort of a news story that was interesting, informational, that sort of thing. Hopefully that was something that you guys liked. And yeah, with that being said, let's move over to the content creator spotlight. And the content creator I want to talk about this week is this channel that has 638 subs. And looking at his name, I unfortunately am not sure how to pronounce it. Probably should have asked him. But it's this little channel called, I want to say, oxshox? oxshox. oxshox? Maybe. But yeah, oxshox, I think he's a really cool guy. Basically, what he does on his channel is that he plays horror games. I know he doesn't only play horror games. I think he played some other stuff at some point. I think he played like some PUBG and, I think he did play some other stuff, but the main focus of his channel is horror games. And yeah, I just really like his channel because he plays all sorts of like indie games. He plays all sorts of like popular games. His reaction to the games is really cool. Because I just think he's very genuine. A lot of the times when you watch other people play horror games, like they're very over the top and you can tell that they're just kind of reacting the way they are to just to be like memeable and just to get clicks and stuff, with clickbait and stuff. But him, when he plays horror games, I would say he's very real about his reactions, and just seeing him play through all these games is really cool. And like I said, not only does he play like popular stuff such as I'm looking through his list right now, not only does he play stuff like Bendy, for instance, and not only does he play stuff like he played that remake that got made of PT, for the PC. Not only does he play like really like popular stuff like that, that's like, like really well heard of, but he also plays like really indie stuff. Like he played a game called Blame Him. That's what he played last. He played that like 5-6 days ago. And that's a game I had never even heard of. But thanks to him, there you go. There's a new indie game I just heard of. Similarly, he played, what was one that really caught my attention? I'm trying to look for it really quick. He played another game called The Free Rider. I've never even heard of that game. I don't even know where that game came from. But I remember when he played it, it was like really interesting and it like really caught my attention. And so yeah, oxshox basically does horror, which, it's very niche. I know that, it's not going to be for everybody, but I really enjoy the channel. I would say that if you're looking for someone who plays horror games, he's your guy. And yeah, like I said, 638 subscribers. I think he definitely deserves to have more. I think that he, exposes people to horror games in a really genuine way. And so yeah, oxshox, hopefully I'm saying your name right. If you're watching this, I think you have a really cool channel. I think that your videos are always really entertaining. I think that the games that you cover are great. And yeah, I know you were inactive for a while, which that kind of sucked, but it looks like you're back now. And yeah, dude, just don't give up. I think you have great content. I think that everybody should watch you, and I look forward to watching more, And for anyone who's watching this, as I said, please check out his channel. I think he has some really good stuff. Give him some love. Maybe subscribe to him if you're, interested in his stuff. Yeah, give him a shot, guys. Show him some love. And as I said, oxshox, keep up the good work. Alrighty, and with that brings us to the end of another podcast. That is one more in the bag. Hopefully today's podcast was a good one. Hopefully, it was entertaining, that sort of stuff. And yeah, as I said, guys, I am trying to expand the podcast to other platforms. So I'm really looking forward to that. And for this week's video, I just released the Aquaman video. If you haven't watched that yet, go check it out. And for next week, I am not sure what I'm going to do yet. I might do a review of OutRun, because like I said, I really enjoyed that game and I think it's worth sharing, especially because like the price is really low. So I just think it's like a nice game to have on the Switch. And yeah, besides that, guys, I think that's all I really have to say for now. So yeah, my name has been Wannabe Reviewer, and I will catch you guys next time.